All right, welcome back to the shop. So in this video, I'm going to be assembling this, it's a wheel brake unit for a Cat 735. So it'd be on the front or the center axle of the 6-wheel drive articulated truck. I'm gonna, this one here I actually bought for a spare so I could just swap out in the field. If you guys have watched my channel for a while, you've seen old videos where I've gone out to the field and I've pulled you know, this wheel hub out, pulled the planetary out, pulled the wheel hub out, pulled the brakes apart, cleaned all that up, just to put wheel bearings and wheel seals in these. So I bought 4 of these for the 740s. I got a really good deal on those, so I bought those, and it's real easy. I just go out and just swap them in the field, and then we just rebuild them back here. And then for the 735, I only have 2 of those 735s, so I rounded up all the parts. I just bought the parts from different people. I just shopped around for some good deals. So I've got the brake unit, I've got the internal hub, I've got the outer hub part with the bull gear. I have the wheel assembly. I've got the brake discs and plates, and I've got the planetary. None of this stuff's been together yet, except the planetary was in that, and that's it. And the brakes were in that, but they're all from different trucks or whatever, from different people I bought them from. So in this video, I'm going to take and I'm going to assemble this. All right, so I just lowered it down into place, and I was keeping an eye on these bolt holes here. I got that lined up, but now these ones don't. So apparently this is only going to go in one direction, so now we're going to have to figure that out, which way it's going to go. All right, so I got it lined up. I think it was the 3rd hole I tried. I got it lined up. So these retaining holes here, retaining bolt holes, are lined up. All the main mounting holes for the axle are lined up. Fortunately, I was able to see through these holes. I was able to keep an eye on the O-ring all the way around. So the O-ring was good. It didn't pop out of place. So I just got to nudge this over a little bit with a bar, and then I'll bolt these down, and we can flip this thing back over. Here's some bolts that hold it on. It's a Zero Sam 1594. They're a 3/8 bolt, like about 1 1/4 inch long or so. And it does not take a washer in there. I just went and double checked real quick. I just looked at another wheel that I have laying out here, and it does not have washers there. And I didn't order any with it, so just want to make sure I didn't mess up when I placed my order. And I just dropped the bolt inside that hole. That's great. I can go get a magnet and fish that out. And then these here, it's a 3/8 bolt. So Cat's torque spec on a 3/8 bolt, if I remember right, it's like 35 foot-pounds or something like that. All right, I've got my socket on here. I'm ready to go. So if you're curious to what 35 foot-pounds looks like with an Ingersoll Rand 1/2 inch impact, first I'm just going to snug them down a little bit all the way around evenly, then I'll tighten them up. Probably pulling maybe a 1/3 trigger on this thing. I'm not pulling it all the way. I'm just pulling about a 1/3 the way. I could feel it where it's snugged up right. And I'll just kind of test them all again as I go around one more time. Probably 1/8 of a throttle maybe, just to see how they feel. right, so here's the brake unit. Now it has the center hub in it. It's got a new bearing on there, or bearing cone. I just need to, well, I'm going to install all the brake discs first. Then I need to install the inner lifetime seal, the one for the gear oil. And then we'll put the retainer plate on, and then we'll go from there. All right, we'll start putting these discs in. The first plate that goes in is called a buffer, and it's got this rubber coating on it. The first one and the last one have this, and that rubber coating goes out because obviously because of plate because the clutch disc is going to ride on this surface here. There's a part number there, 8 Whiskey 9707. So we're going to put and install this one first. And we're going to install a disc. And we'll just keep stacking these things. We're going to install a plate. Disc. Another plate. And we're just going to stack all the way up. It's got 11 discs, I believe, if I remember from counting last time. And then a plate in between each one. We're going to just continue stacking those up. I'll cut the video here. You guys probably don't need to watch me stack these things. All right, so that's 11 discs, and that's all the plates except for the very last one, which is one of the buffer plates, just like I did in the... So that's 11 discs. It's got all the plates in between. So there's a plate, a disc, a plate, a disc, stacked all the way up. And then the last one's going to be this plate that has a buffer on it. So that buffer plate's going to ride up against this retainer plate. Next, I just need to grease up an O-ring and put the O-ring in here. And I'll lay this down on here. Now this plate here only goes on one direction. I don't know why they did that, but there's one missing bolt hole that it doesn't have. And so here it is here. So it can only go on one way. So once we get that on, then we go ahead and install the lifetime seals in it, and this will be ready to accept the wheel hub. Actually, we'll just put a ton of grease on this O-ring. There we go. I just need to put these bolts in, tighten them down, and this section will be done. It's funny, these things are kind of a mix of metric stuff and American stuff, or SAE. The bolts on the back side of this were SAE. The ones that hold this retainer on are SAE. These bolts I'm putting now, they're metric. I guess Cat couldn't make up their mind on these things. So just take an 18mm socket on these. I'm going to just do a crisscross pattern just to get this snug down, and then I'll just go around and tighten them all up. See how easy that came out? So we just did the zigzag weld on there, and it shrunk this thing, and that's it. All right, I've got this all cleaned up. Got the new cups. On these things, I only use Cat or I use Timken. I wouldn't use any others. I wouldn't use any cheap aftermarket or anything like that, because these bearings are barely good enough for the weight that this truck has anyways. So it's either Cat or Timken. Cat used to use Timken. In fact, just until about 5 years ago. Now they say Poland, or they say something like that on there. Let's see what it says. Off of there. M1T, yeah, AFD Poland. Not sure where they're made or what that brand is. In fact, they're made in Poland. Look at that. Look at the sticker. So, but apparently Cat's got them made to their spec, because they do work pretty good. When they first switched, I had problems with them not lasting very long at all. So I wasn't using them for a few years. And I would just source out Timken, which can be hard to find sometimes. But in the last few years, I have been using these Cat ones, and they've been doing fine for me. So that's what this is getting. It's getting Cat bearings and races. All right, so here's an interesting side note. The cups and cones, I bought them all from Cat for this machine by the part number. The cups were made in Poland. The cones are made in the United States. Both of them are. It says US. So if anybody ever tells you have to have matching races and bearings, you know, on roller bearings or tapered roller bearings, apparently Cat doesn't think you have to. So I don't know. Put that in the comments, you guys, if anybody knows about that, where they really should be, or if it doesn't really matter, or what the story is on that. Apparently Cat, they must have the cup made to fit that cone. I don't know. So strange. In fact, let's pull this out. Let's see if there's a name on the bearing. Cat. Timken. Huh, this roller bearing's made by Timken still. This must have been older stock or something, I don't know. Because I know they quit making them. Let's see if there's a date on here. October 2014. So this must be some old stock. Sometimes I buy these things online. I'll buy them on eBay or something like that, buy older stock. So that's a Timken bearing. This one here, I don't know because I've already installed it and I can't see it. But really interesting. All right, so I have another set of bearings here in the Connex. And so I came out to look, and this says Cat, 2 Nancy 2189 USA DKA. And I don't know the date on these either. These I know are like an old stock, new old stock that I bought not that long ago, just to have on hand. So really interesting. Is it important to have matching brand on cup and cone? I don't know. Cat's mixing them around so much anymore on these wheel bearings, I don't know if it really matters. All right, we got the cage cut off, dropped all the little bearings out. Now we'll flip it over, and then we're gonna take this inner race, and we're just gonna heat it up real evenly. And when it gets warm enough, it'll swell up and it'll slide right off of here. All right, well that went quick. We'll just keep moving the torch around steadily around it, and then we'll just check every few minutes to see what the temperature is. And then you'll see the cosmoline or whatever that is on there, it'll start to burn off. But right when these get to just about the right temp, you always see just a little different color of a flash kind of come up. And sometimes you pull the flame away, you'll get this little kind of smoke coming off it. And it's almost always right when it's at that perfect range. So, 260, 240, a little bit more, then we'll pick it up to it on there. All right. Yeah, we're at, yeah, we're right there. We're at almost 300 right now. Yeah, go ahead and shut that off and then just pick it up and get it on there nice and straight. If it gets stuck, we have to, there we go. Yeah, rotate a little bit like that just to seat it. You'll see that inner race rotating. And in just a minute here, that inner race isn't going to rotate anymore. All right, so next off, I'm going to install the inner lifetime seal. I've already installed the outer lifetime seal on this one. It's uneventful. It goes in real easy. They used to sell an installer tool for it, but they don't sell it anymore because you just really don't need it. And they're very expensive. This installer tool, it's a 2-piece, and it was about, I think, like $800 or $900 or something like that for both pieces together. So here's the inner seal. I'm going to have Alex hold the camera while I put this in. This installer tool makes it so easy. It cuts about a half hour to an hour out of my job here. So I'm going to take the inner tool, compress it, and put it in there. I'm going to stretch the O-ring on there. I've lightly oiled the O-ring just a little bit. Okay, we want that right above the steel lip in there. And then we're going to take the metal part of the lifetime seal, and it's going to get notched into this groove here, into that notch. So for the guy that wants me to wear the white gloves and the lab coat, I'm sorry, but this thing here is touching it too, so I don't know what the difference is between me touching it and this fiber touching it. Okay, then this is going to slide over here, and then we're just going to kind of evenly push down on this. Now we're going to slide out the outer one. And we're going to squeeze this together and slide that out. And there it is. So before I do assemble it, I'm going to wipe this down with a nice clean cotton, like a soft cloth. Put a light film of oil on both these seals. And then we'll do that to both sides of them when we go to install it. So this is how you use the two-piece installer that Cat sells to install the inner dual cone seal on the wheel. First you get this one here that's got the notch. That's the sealing area there. That's the one that you're not allowed to touch because, oh God, I just destroyed it. Anyways, that's the one you're not allowed to touch. You get that into the notch there on the installer, so it's holding it for you. And then you take and put the torque seal, the rubber seal, on this section into that kind of relief, like step down area. And then, yeah, then you just get the, we'll keep these openings aligned. We need to squeeze this and get it to go inside of that other installer. And we're going to slide it down so that they're sitting like that, kind of together. And then you're going to, yeah, you got to have it so it holds a seal. So you got to lower it down in there. And then you're going to push this center one down. Make sure it's flush against the hub. And make sure the seal's, you know, down at the bottom of it. And you take the top one and you have to kind of work it around a little bit and push down, and you'll feel it hitting bottom. And you're going to slide this one out. You're going to squeeze this together, slide this one out, and then that's how you do it. And that is the easy way to do it. Okay, so we've got this hanging from the crane. It's got new cone, or it's got new cups in it, new bearing cups. The seals are mounted on the other side of it. We've got the brake discs and plates in place. They're all in the right place. We've got the new seals in there, the lifetime seals. I cleaned these off with a real fine cotton cloth, a white one by the way. And then I put a thin coat of oil on there. And the bearings in here. I don't put oil on the bearing because the oil, this thing's gonna have oil flowing through it before we ever move the truck. So you don't have to really pre-oil these. But the problem is if you pre-oil the bearings, when you go to set, you know, to figure out what shims you're gonna need when you go to set your preload on the bearings, it's gonna roll too easy, and you can have it too tight and it'll still roll. If you leave them dried, then you can feel the resistance, and that way you know for sure that you've got your clearance in there, but you're not too tight. So we're gonna go ahead and set this on. This is the spline right here that goes into the teeth on the brake discs. And fortunately, Cat did us a favor and they put a huge bevel on here for us. Normally they would do something sharp like this, but I guess the engineer that worked on this didn't know how to screw us over. So it's got a real nice bevel, and so it makes it lining up in these teeth real easy, because you're not going to be able to get these teeth perfect. And so when we lower it down, we're just going to kind of twist and jiggle this thing, and it's just going to work its way down in there. You'll actually be able to feel it kind of as it works its way past each one of the discs. All right, go ahead and lower down real easy. So we just want to kind of keep this centered up in there. When you have it in a machine, you got to be careful, because if you bump that dual cone seal, you can pop them out, and then you've got to go ahead and reset everything. Okay, it's sitting on there now. I'm going to grab it, just kind of rotate it in there. Okay, go ahead and come down a little bit. All right, see that how it just kind of bounced down? So it lined up with the first disc. And now we just gotta kind of work it on each disc as we go down. I assume Cat might make a tool to line all those up before you start, but it's not really necessary with that bevel in there. Just about on the seal now. Okay, so the seal's just met. So by the time we put the outer hub in and the retainer and pull this down, on this style, this gap is going to be almost non-existent. That's how much it's going to squeeze these torque seals, or squeeze the dual cone seals together. All right, so we've got the outer hub. It's got the brand new cone on there, bearing cone. And he's going to go ahead and set it in there. You're going to have to pick it up from here. Usually when we're doing this on the machine, I've got it hanging either with a chain through one of these holes or something like that, but or I just reach in with my arm like this and pick it up and set it in, but can't quite do it that way now. All right, Alex is going to try to get this in there without making it look like a couple of monkeys on a football. Well,
like that?
Yeah, just like that. It's hot too. It was just sitting out in the sun.
It's freaking toasty.
This is fun. I may or may not edit all this out. Did you get your fingies?
No, it's hot.
Oh. Now rotate it. Make sure it gets on that spline. That inner spline on the hub. Hopefully someone didn't sell me the wrong one, right? It doesn't fit.
Thank God.
Just like that. So that's how that's going to sit. It gets this retainer. It's 2 Victor 7092. This will sit on here like that. And what we're going to do is put 4 bolts in here and pull it down to a certain torque. I have to look up the torque. I usually just kind of do it by feel, but yeah, we'll do it by torque. And then we measure how deep these holes go, because measuring through that hole is going to hit here on this inner hub or whatever it is, and we'll see how deep that is. Then we'll pull this back off. We'll measure through all 3 of these holes, and then we'll add them together, divide it by 3, and that'll give us an average. And then we measure how thick this is at each one of these holes, and then we take and subtract that from that value, and then whatever value we get, it's going to be about that much. We're going to add, I think it's 5 thousandths. I have to look, and maybe 3 thousandths of shims in addition to whatever it takes to fill that gap. All right, so I'm going to pull these down to about 50 or 60 foot-pounds. Then Alex will get the torque wrench there, and we'll go to 75. So you want to rotate? Well, get a bar in there, Alex, and see if you can rotate the wheel a little bit as I pull this down. By the time we're done.
Oh, geez.
Okay, that's it. So check the torque on those now.
I think you were right. I think that was 50 pounds.
Oh, I know it's at 50 pounds. There's some people that have to use torque wrenches on everything, I think, because they suck.
We call them nerds around here.
So when you've been doing it for 40 years, you get it, you figure it out. Okay, so now that that's torqued, I'm going to measure the depth of these. We're going to write it down and do our math. Okay, so I've got my vernier caliper. I've got it zeroed out. What we're going to do, we're just going to rest it on here. We're going to roll it down so the back of the measuring deal on there hits the hub. And it's a little hard to do with one hand, but I want to try to make sure everything's flat and level as I do it, so I get a good accurate measurement. So the first one is 1.557. Okay, so now I'm going to measure them here. I'll run that down. All right, I've got 1.414. Okay, so I just tabulated the math. One thing, if you're one of those guys that sits down and actually does this math in your head, you're going to see that he did it wrong when he was doing it manually, but then we did it with a calculator to double check, and we got the correct value. So we took 1.558, we subtracted 1.464 from it, we got 0.094 of an inch. We add 4 thousandths of an inch, and that gives us 0.098 of an inch. All right, so this is a pack of shims. I just bought this. I got a real good deal on eBay. I think I paid like 20 bucks for these. So 2 Victor 7390, that's the part number. It comes with a whole stack. You get a bunch of different thicknesses. So I'll dig out enough to do 0.098, and then we'll figure it out. 0.83. That one feels kind of thin. 0.098. So that's what we want, is 0.098. So these are the shims we're going to put under that retainer plate. Okay, so we've got our shims here. We're going to just lay them down. Line them up with the holes. We're going to lay a retainer. I don't know if it matters which way the retainer goes, but I always like to put this up and down. One other thing I like to do too is when I put this bowl gear in, it's got this relief in here to take out this lock ring that goes in here. I always try to put that at the bottom. Sometimes I screw up and I don't, just because I forget to or something's happening. Because if you get any kind of a failure in here, we have metal dropping down around, it'll get in the gap behind this lock ring, and then you can't compress this. And so instead of being able to just pull a bowl gear out, slide a new one in, put your planetary in, and be on the road in a couple of hours, you've got to take this retainer plate out. I've actually had to junk a good retainer plate because I could not get that out because all that crap built up behind there. So I always try to get that gap at the bottom when it's mounted on the machine. And then I'd like to line this up too, so it's vertical. I don't know why I do that, but it's just how I am. Okay, so I put 2 bolts in there. I've got the shim pack in there. I'm going to line this up where this is straight up and down. We've got this gap. We did end up having it off, so when we had the camera off, we picked that up and moved it over where it belongs. And we'll drop all 8 of these bolts in here, and then we're just going to run them in there, and we're going to run them down evenly until they get snug down, then we're going to torque them to the torque spec. Okay, so here's the torque spec on it when we run the bolts in. It's 111 plus or minus 15 foot-pounds, so we're going to do like 125 foot-pounds. So I'm going to tighten these with the impact and see if I can get close to 125 foot-pounds, and then we'll check them with the torque wrench. Okay, we'll see how close we got. Man, mother pulling 125 foot-pounds. Oh, turned a little bit and then hit 125. Did you see that?
Oh, please. They'll never be quiet about this.
All right, so we've got the link brackets on here so we could safely put this in with the crane, but Alex wants to just pick it up and put it in, which I don't blame him. I usually do it all the time too. So we've got the O-ring in there, everything's clean. When he goes to sit in place, I'll go around and just kind of jiggle the gears to make sure they line up in the ring gear or the bull gear, and then we'll just let him set this down, gently set it down. Oh, there we go.
Nice.
No? Why? Wait, what's going on there? Oh. Time! All right, he's greasing up that O-ring to put it on the cover. Here's the sun gear. Double check, it is a Cat sun gear. Don't ever use an aftermarket sun gear or planetary gears unless you're doing it for somebody you don't like, because they will not last on these rock trucks. So I'm just going to set that in there. Normally this gets put in with the axle, but I just want to ship it with it. That way we have it in case when we go to change this thing out, the existing sun gear isn't any good.
Make sure you wear gloves so you don't get your fingers dirty.
So one thing to check out on these, so before you put it on, you want these pins, you want these flat spots facing out, because if they're turned like that, this cover won't go on right. You'll end up breaking the cover. And these flat spots actually line up in here on the cover. You can see where the little witness mark from the pin. You got to make sure that these covers, I have one around here that's wore out. I think it's in a container. And when one of these was going bad and the bearings were gripping the pin, it actually ate into here and it'll eat this out. So make sure that this shoulder here is in good shape. Otherwise, these pins will rotate and it's just going to eat your housing up. So Alex just went to the container and got one. And you can see how these are all dug into. And that's just wore out. That's not a good thing. All right, so that's how we assemble this wheel brake unit for Cat 735. It's the same assembly process for 725, 730, 745, probably a lot of machines out there. If you think I did something wrong, that's cool. Put it in the comments nicely. I don't care, because that's how I do them, and and they work for me. So anyways, thanks for watching. Hit the like button, please. Share the video with a friend if you would, and subscribe if you haven't already. And thanks for watching. All right, I almost forgot to do our safety briefing before we did this. So Octung, carefully in process. Got to have your safety squints on, double rubber, and have your mother on speed dial. That's the only way that we can safely rebuild something like this. And that's more important than the white gloves and the lab coat. So